So we've got our files that we got off Moodle, and if you pick something on the Mac, you'll see it'll actually tell you what layer it is. So this is on the tax layer. Then I can just turn it off. You turn it back on again. Okay. On the PC, there's in the layers palette, it's probably going to show up as well in the same way. So what you might do. Let's say that we want to just look at the roads. Let's say so. Actually, I might just turn off that tax layer again. Let's look at the roads in relationship to our sites as a diagram. So I might turn everything off, and it looks like this is a site up here. Let's see what that layer is there. That's proposal. Let's see what proposal says. Oops.
Is it where you turn everything off at once?
You can select everything and then right click, and I think you can turn off. But that's not gonna help if everything gets turned off though. So let's take a look at Betsy's image again. So site B is this kind of corner piece, and site A is this what's inside of this loop here. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take all this, and I'm just going to select everything and copy it. So select, and then COPY. I apologize, it's probably a little hard to see the brown here. And I'm just going to copy it and place it. Okay. And so that's gonna give me this copy to work with, so I can play with that without messing with the original layer. And that's kind of a strategy for this. And then what I might do from there is make a new layer. And let's see here on the Mac, it's a little bit tricky. Let's right-click new layer. And I'm just going to call this this first layer, I don't know, diagram. Let's say project diagram. And you can change the properties of that layer if you're on it and you have the inspector open and on the Mac. You can change the color of it. So I can make the color white so it stands out, or I can change the color to one of these other colors. I can go to select color, and I can choose a color from the index, just so it stands out. Okay. And what I'm thinking about here is what's important. Are these kind of major roads here, and these kind of minor roads, and then my sites. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of these objects, and it's going to beach ball me here, and I'm going to go ahead, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of them to a layer. I'm going to do this a little bit backwards here. Yeah, let's think about this. What I want to do is actually lock these. I'm going to go ahead and isolate these. Okay, so now I've turned off everything else, and I don't. It's just a drawing that has these on here, and I'm on my project diagram layer. So I'm going to do like a double click. So I'm drawing on that layer. Make active. Why is that not active?
What did you hide?
I just went in here. Let me go ahead and undo that. In Mac I actually isolated the layers just so I can. So I pick everything that I want, and then I hit right-click isolate.
You just highlighted everything?
Just a copy of it. It's hard to read, but I have a copy down on the bottom here, yeah. And I made a copy of this. So I picked the stuff I want to work with.
And you're asking which layers you turned off initially, though?
I didn't turn off any layers actually. Just if you just do isolate, what it does is it's just going to kind of create. Where the only thing in the drawing are these things. I still have the layers there. I haven't turned off any layers. That's because it would be hard to go through and turn off all the layers or lock all the layers. So that's why you have something like isolate.
So you selected the layers that you wanted to isolate?
No, I selected the objects I wanted to isolate. Yeah, it has nothing to do with layers. If I had fewer layers, I could lock the layers. You could go through and right-click, and you could actually lock them. But this is one of the newer features that's a little bit easier to work with. So again, what I'm going to do. This is a diagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my diagram layer, and I'm on that layer. It's white, and I'm going to use the line tool, and I might just simply, and you might do this. Let me turn this off here. I've got snaps going everywhere here. Okay. No. Okay, here we go. So I'm looking at the major roads, and I might diagram those major roads and the kind of minor roads. So basically just putting down the lines that I need. And it's kind of interesting here that if I'm reading this correctly, this is actually not connected. Yeah. Now this is one way that you could do it simply is just to do it by drawing lines on top of it, and then we're going to go in Illustrator and we're going to do some of those lines. But and then I could draw lines that represent where our sites are. I'm doing this kind of quickly here. You guys will do a better job of this than I will. But try and snap back on here. Okay, so this is site B, and then kind of here I might actually do something where this is my other site here. And this is a lot rougher than I expected it to be. Okay. So what we have is this, and then what we could do is go in and accentuate these lines to be a bit darker because these are major arteries and these are minor roads, and then we might actually put in where this kind of fits into that on the site. Another way you could do it, rather than just kind of tracing on top of it. Here, back up here. So you can start by kind of tracing, and then you could turn off all the other layers, and then you have those lines. The other way you could do it, hang on a second here. I'm not getting my layer that I want. What is wrong with this? Sorry, okay. Okay, the other thing you could do would be to go in and choose all the lines that you want to add to that layer. And this is kind of time consuming, but so if you wanted it to be exact, you would sort of pick all those lines. That are on those streets there, or yeah. And then choose this sight line. Remember to turn off something from your selection. You hold down Shift on the Mac at least, and you can pick something, and that'll hide it. So let's just pick the edge of this. And it looks like this just comes in on the corner. This is a road here. So I'm just interested in these kind of major arteries for my diagram. And let's get this clover leaf in here too. Okay, so I've got these pieces, and then I can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and move these to this layer here. Why is it not? Oh, okay. So then it says Properties Inspector, if I go to that, so these are on multiple layers now. I'm going to go through and where it says layer and change it to my project diagram layer. And the color is going to be by layer. And so now if I mouse off, see, so all those have been moved to my project diagram layer, this first diagram. So if I turn that off, you can see those lines disappear. So I'm moving things to that layer, and you can see it shows up better on this screen now. So that's the beginnings of my diagram. So the first way I did it, I just did like a tracing of it on a layer, and that was my diagram. Another way to do it is to just take the lines, move them to a new layer, and then that's the start of your diagram. And you can see it definitely takes longer, but it might just be like a higher like fidelity like operation. You can do a combination of the two. I could start with a series of lines that I took from the CAD file, and then see here I don't have a nice clean thing. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn these off. Let's see, this is on other plots. I'm going to turn that layer off. And this is, what layer is this? This is on proposal. So again, I pick it, and then it will tell me in the inspector what layer it's on. So it's on the proposal layer. Turn that off. What are these guys? These are OBS, whatever that means. This is a L-site plant. Turn that one off. This is plots, which I thought I turned off. Oh, no. Okay, so those get turned off. So you can go through, and this is benches. Okay. Okay, that cleans some things up. What are these blue lines, actually? Those are what? Tracks. Okay, so that's weird. So is there a railroad, but then they're not completely filled in on the drawing? Okay, so you might need to diagram that, actually, like the relationship of that to the railroad. But for now, what's that?
I think it might be a dead railroad.
Okay. So then we can, I think these paths are interesting, though, like these kind of side paths. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. First of all, I'm going to turn off this junk here. Project, that's not my diagram. Something else. That's layer 0. Okay, good. Okay. So let's go through, and I'm going to go ahead and take these paths, though, for my diagram. So these are, okay, cement roads, or these are cemetery roads. Huh. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and add those again. So I selected all of them, go into my Properties Inspector, and under Layer, I'm going to go to my Project Diagram layer, and under Color, I'm going to go to by Layer for now.
What does by layer mean? Oh, by layer.
Yeah, by layer means it's like I'm going to take the color of the layer so it makes them white, and that's just going to make them stand out. You could preserve the colors of them, and that might be useful for the next part. But I don't know, I kind of prefer to have them all be the same. Okay, so I might actually show an example of a different way to do that. So let me go ahead. And the other thing that I want to do, too, actually, is so this is our other site, this other piece. So I have our site up here. That's this plot. And our other site seems to be this kind of circular thing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off by drawing a line onto it and make sure that that's on our project diagram layer. So now I've got all these lines. And if I go through, I can turn off, I can select all the layers. So I can choose that list, and I can say Control A, and then I should be able to, yeah, that'll turn all of them off. And then I'm gonna. So this is kind of what I showed you guys before. If you want to just get one thing out of a list of things, then I can turn back on the project diagram layer, and so now I've got the beginnings of this diagram here. Okay. So again, the process that I took was I went through my drawing and I chose some lines for some things that I wanted to talk about, and I pulled those out. And once you've got the beginnings of some diagrams, what you can do is you can actually take these and start to copy them then you can make a new layer. So right click, new layer, diagram 2. And you probably give it a color or something like that, but I could go through and change that to this layer. So go through and change it to diagram 2. Probably need to go back and unisolate, like end isolation. Whoa. Okay, that's not working too well. Oh, you know what? Because I turned off all the layers. That's why. Yeah, my layer was actually turned off. Okay, so now I've got 2 objects. I can begin, so I can touch them without actually like messing with the other one because they're on 2 different layers. But I can go through this one, and I could begin to turn off certain things to begin to make another diagram, or I can add things to it because now I've kind of eliminated a lot of extra detail in this one. So here I might actually begin to look at it. I might actually make like a party diagram. So let's make a new layer to keep this separate. Diagram 2 lines. I'm gonna make that. I lost my layer. Oh, diagram 2. Okay, make that red. Let's say to stand out. Oh wait, the properties inspector always gets me. Okay. Go to the individual object and change the color of the layer to red. Okay, so now I'm on this layer, and I might start to draw like a party of the site. So try to find the kind of bounds of it. If I'm kind of simplifying it a bit, what's the main idea of it? So maybe it's got this one kind of entrance. It seems to be missing some lines from the actual site, so you may need to use the underlay, which I'll show you in a second, to actually bring those back. So let's see here. Thinking about, so there's 2 sites. And one is in this crook here. It's kind of rough. And then the other one is this kind of ellipse kind of shape. So we might take the ellipse tool and begin to put that there. I'm not quite sure how to resolve like this as like a party because it kind of like meanders through here. So I might just leave that for now. That'll be up to you to kind of figure out. But just to to kind of get a sense of what the main idea of the site is, as like a diagram. Okay. So you might start to have one that talks about the kind of major arteries and the minor arteries, and then the actual locations of the site, and then you have one that's nearby that's kind of an abstract representation of that. Right. So this is really, really, really simple, but I just want to give you guys a sense of this kind of process of taking something and making something from it. No.
Could you explain exactly like what a party is?
Oh, okay. Certainly. Okay. A party. Well, let's take this building for it. So a party is kind of the main idea of a piece of architecture, and it's the simplest diagram that you could draw, right? So. For instance, okay, like a couple of really dumb examples. The party of like a pyramid is really simple, like an elevation. It's just the kind of outline of the pyramid. There's more to it than that, but it's just kind of a way to think about it. And then in plan, the party of a pyramid is just a square, right? The party of this building, you can think of it lots of different ways, I suppose. But there's kind of like the salon. Then there are the studios and the like faculty offices are off to one side. And then depending on how you think about it, there are the kind of service. There's the kind of gallery there are the administrative spaces and the auditorium. And then you might not even put this in a party, but then there's these kind of our kind of classrooms that we're in right now are on this side. There might even be a way to even like more simplify it, and in fact, like maybe it's just down to it's a drawing of the building, and the salon might be represented by a single line that divides the space, and there might be a thing where like you could do this, and if you consider the auditorium essential, something like that, you know. And this is a really poor like partie, but it's just like what's the simplest way to express the idea? It's not a real representation of it. So when I make a drawing of the site so we're referencing the original drawing, and so it does have kind of a proportion, but we're grossly simplifying what's actually going on the site. And so this is talking about the fact that the cemetery area is ringed by these roads. There is a single access, and there are these two sites, and their relationship to that access is thus. You know, I may be misrepresenting it, but the partie is, again, just the simplest way you could express the idea of the entire project. If the partie of this one site is like this, the partie of the other site is like this triangle. You know, really, and it's not just the bounds; it's just considering the shape of it. You know. Betsy would be it'd be a great conversation to have with Betsy actually about that. So when I say partie, I'll put up some examples of some of these kinds of diagrams, and I think that'll help you guys understand. The ones I'm going to show you though are really architecture. This isn't architecture yet. This is site analysis. We can treat it though in lots of ways as if it were architecture, right? Like the cemetery has circulation. It has paths. It has primaries. It has secondaries. You have, you have access. So if there's a parking lot, that's a very important piece to kind of figure out. Speaking of which, let's see if we can find something like that. So these, I'm going to go ahead and save a copy of these for myself so I can get to the next piece of it. And then what I'm going to do is, for another step here, I'm going to go ahead and open up that piece again, like this piece right here, which is the one that has the kind of zoomed in topo. This is the other site, the smaller, the kind of round site. Let's go on to Google. I see some of you guys on Google Earth. You've got, this kind of thing. Let's go through and let's look at Elmwood. Actually, is it Parkwood, right?
It's Pinewood.
Pinewood.
It'll find Pinewood Cemetery.
What's that?
It'll find Pinewood.
Oh, Pinewood Cemetery. Okay, Pinewood Cemetery. Charlotte, yeah. Okay. Pinewood Cemetery, and I'm going to click on the map, and if I zoom, so this is the one I want, is Elmwood, it seems like. I'm not sure how good the resolution is. Oh no, it's going to do that funky 3D thing that it does now. Oh, darn it. Alright. But I wanted it to be flat.
Switch it to the map.
Turn off 45 degrees. There you go. Okay. Hey, there we go. Now we got some monuments and some shadows and all kinds of stuff. Wicked. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in as far as I can. And you could do this with different. If you have a bigger monitor, you're going to get more. Okay. You guys know how to do screen captures? Yeah. Okay. So on a Mac, I think it's like Shift Command 4. I want to say, and then yeah, Shift Command 4, and then gives me a window to like click and drag, and I'm gonna take that satellite and put a copy of it on my desktop here. So that's the screenshot I took. Okay, on a PC, I think there's like a Shift Print Screen button. In some cases, there's also a screen capture utility. I'm going to go into Photoshop. Actually, I don't need to because I already cropped it. If you need to crop it, you can use Photoshop. Okay, so I'm in Autocad. I can go Insert, Raster Image Reference, and I take my screenshot, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of drop it in. I'm gonna rescale it in a second here. And you kind of make a window for the size of the. Yeah, where did that go? Okay, hang on a second here. Insert raster image. Screenshot. Specify on screen. Yep. Specify insertion point. Specify scale. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so now I've got the image. If you choose, but I've got the problem that the lines are not showing up. So I choose the image, and I can go in and I can change the transparency here to whatever I want, and it's a little slider here. So you can change the change that slider a bit. Now the question that you would have for me, a very good one, is how do you match them up? How do you get the scale of one to match the other? So what you need to do is you need to find some kind of a landmark that's on the site. So for instance, there's this kind of like mausoleum, it looks like. There's kind of a tomb here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line. Just rough. It doesn't have to be exact, but this is going to help us. I'm going to draw a line on that. And then I'm going to go in and scale. So scale command. Choose the object. And I'm going to choose both of these. And then it says specify base point. So the point at which I'm going to scale it from is actually going to be this line that I drew. And the scale factor. And I'm actually going to do a reference. Actually, where are my commands are kind of hidden here. My command window disappeared. Command line. There we go. Okay, so it says specify scale factor or reference. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a reference. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to redo this so you guys can see. I didn't realize that my command window wasn't showing. Hang on a second. Okay, scale. Choose my objects. Specify a point. Scale by reference. That's R. Specify the length. The reference length is going to be this length. Okay, and the new length is going to be the length. And hopefully this works. Oh no, it didn't. Okay. What you want to do is basically make the length of that equal to the length of this, and then that will scale it to the proper size. And I screwed up the order of that. Okay. You know what?
No, it's just that line's long, right? So it's not picking up.
It's there's an order to do it, which I screwed up. I'm gonna go ahead and actually just take and draw a line on that, and I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna move that line down to my other line. That's just an easier way to do it. I always mess this up when I teach this part. Okay, it's actually a little bit. Mine is bigger actually. So my line is this line here, and the other line. So actually, what I drew is actually this. My image is too large right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and scale, and the base point is going to be still going to be this, the edge of it. And the scale factor is going to be by reference. The reference length is this one, and the new length is this scale. We'll get there. Third time's a charm. Okay. Base point, reference. Start from large to small?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing, I thought. Large?
Yeah, grab it now. Right.
And then go to here.
Right.
Yeah, and that, yeah. Yeah, okay, so now that will rescale, and you can see that now the length of that is right. So if I go back...
So you just can do it again, so
yeah, let me do it one last time so we all are clear on what that is. So I have... This is my line. The line that I took from the actual scaled piece is this other line, and I line them up. I go scale. I choose everything. Then the base point is this corner. And I want to scale by reference, okay? And then the length, I choose this length, which is the length of the image. And then I snap to the smaller length, which is the scale lines, and see the image shrinks.
Okay, so you, by choosing, I mean you drew the line, basically clicked on base point, went to the end of it, and,
Yep.
and just went back and
base point to end point, and then to the new end point. Okay, and now I'm going to go in, and I've already got the transparency turned on for this. I'm going to go in, and I can arrange my image, and I'll have to do a little bit of English here. It still seems, now it seems like it's too small.
Yeah.
I messed something up there. But that's the principle. Sorry guys, jeez.
I think it's trickier on the Mac than it is on the Windows version
Yeah.
to do.
But you can you know what you could do too is you can kind of eyeball it too. You can hit scale, and I'll scale from it, and I would assume that the scale factor is like maybe maybe 10% bigger, and I could do that. So scale, base point, 1 point, maybe a third bigger. Pretty darn close. All right, okay, some things work. So if you can line that up, and you can actually see, we actually kind of have a little bit of a, like this seems to line up okay, but now this row doesn't seem to line up with this very well. Interesting. Huh. No, you know what? I wonder if I didn't, if it was okay before, actually. I don't know. Well, yeah, you can kind of manually, you might be able to manually scale it. But anyway, the principle is maybe you don't even use it with the contours. Maybe you use the underlay and you draw diagrams
That's
on
not
top
actually
of
the
it.
road either. It's next to the road, I think.
Isn't it? Because these seem to line up with the road. These pieces up here.
Seeing the, here's the road, right? Isn't this
Yeah.
next to it?
But I was looking at the brown line and that lining up with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What's that?
Maybe make an app that will actually pull in Google.
I think, yeah, if you had the coordinates for it, this doesn't have the latitude and longitude.
No, you can basically do the same thing you're talking about.
Oh, and it just pulls it in from there?
You have to get the same spot, but it'll pull it in at 1-to-1.
I'm kind of old school, I guess. I don't know.
It's hard to find. I mean, this is not an easy process either way.
Yeah.
I've done it one time.
So in any case, this is how you get any kind of underlay into AutoCAD, and it just kind of didn't work out so well. I might, if I do a better job of it at home, I might make another video of it. But anyway, the idea is that by scaling by reference, it's easier than figuring out exactly what the scales. You can also, if you do a little bit of math, you can find the length of one line and the length of the other line, and just do a little bit of like division, find the multiple, and then scale it by the multiple. But visually doing it is a little bit, well, supposed to be a little bit easier. Another thing too is that this might need to be rotated a bit. That's always a possibility. If it's actually off, it seems to be online though. So anyway, you might be able to transform it. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm going to move it over.
Are you guys having trouble with that?
I did it, and I thought I had the right thing, but it didn't seem to line up.
I'm the one that did all that.
The original one?
Yeah, I think it was the building on the side there.
Yeah, this one?
And now over, because that was added.
Oh, it's added afterwards?
Yeah.
I don't know what. Oh, there we go.
On the image, there's where that roof, you can see the,
Yeah.
I think the side northwest,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was 35 feet.
Okay, so you can
there
actually scale off of
measured
that.
it. Yeah.
I see.
I think it was 35 feet.
I see. But so so what? Some things you could do. So for instance, these trees are kind of symbols here. One thing you could do as a diagram is actually go in and get the real sizes of some of these trees, by using the circle tool and tracing. So this is an example of something that you could do that's not in the drawings, but that you need an image for. Looking at actual tree canopy. And to do these, you might just actually kind of layer them together. Just keep kind of combining them. Just experiment a bit. But so there's a combination of things. So you can just draw like raw lines. You can turn things off and on. You can also use underlay, and you can draw on top of it. And you can use combinations of those in order to get your lines. Okay, and then once you've got your lines, like let's say in this file that I've got right here, you could you've got them separated on layers. You've got your lines. You can also copy paste things to a new file. So let's say these are in the file. I can go in and I can say edit, copy. I can make a new file. and just say just use like the default AutoCAD. You can paste them in. So like in most of your other programs, like in Word, you can do like a copy paste. Let me zoom out here. So now they're in their own file. They're fresh. I'm only seeing the layers that I made. Everything else has been eliminated from it. Okay. This is just to kind of reduce kind of like the clutter and make the file smaller. Then you can save that file, and you want to save it for the best results. I would save it as the oldest DXF you can find. We're going to open this up in Illustrator. Okay. Only because the newer versions of AutoCAD have more bells and whistles, and the Illustrator can't always interpret the file correctly. All you care about are lines, right? You don't care about the other kinds of geometry or text or whatever is in that file. You want Illustrator to translate it for you. So it's really important to use the oldest file format, which is DXF. You can try it with other ones. Like, I just can't promise you it's going to come in right. Okay. And you guys have done a little bit of Illustrator before?
Yeah.
You guys did some lines. You guys did some line colors and things like that. Okay. So I'm gonna just, some of this will be reviewed then, but I want to make a point. So now you could argue, like, why am I not doing this in Illustrator? It's because Illustrator doesn't have like the precision. It doesn't have the same kind of capabilities as you have in AutoCAD. If you're working with things at scale, Illustrator it just ignores all of that. So it's really useful to do your line drawings in AutoCAD and then use Illustrator to do your kind of presentation. At least that's what we're going to do today. Let's get this thing opened up here. So you can open up DXF files, DWG files in Illustrator. Go to desktop and open up my drawing. Now you can kind of like mess with this, but for now let's just go ahead and say scale to artboard. It should work. Yeah, so it actually came in exactly. So these are yellow, and these are black. Okay, you can increase the size of the artboard. You can go into the document and edit the artboard, and then you can type in. So let's say I wanted to plot this out. I might make a 36 by 24. Oh, that's the location actually. I should undo that. Width and height. So 36 by 24. And that'll increase the size of my board. Okay. Okay. So you've got your thing. They're on different layers. You can select everything on a layer by clicking the little thing. And I might start by just going ahead and making everything black. So choose the line, make it black. So now we're kind of on even footing. But then I want to go in and I want to change the weight so I can pick different lines. And in Illustrator, you hold down Shift, or you can click and drag, and add lines. But I might actually go in, and I think I recognize that the major roads. Well, actually, this one's all the same. I might make the outline of this darker. So I hold Shift, pick these, go into line weight, and change that weight to something a bit darker. I might go in and zoom in and choosing these, I could go in and make these my red, so I change the color. And actually I kind of want to swatch probably. If you don't have the colored swatches, you go into this little icon in the corner here and you say open library, and you want to go to default and RGB. It's probably fine. And that's going to pop up. So that's a way to always get the same red. I might make that weight 1.0. I take the same thing and say, 1 and red. And so now I'm beginning to diagram, beginning to give things a certain weight to them, a certain accent. If you want to make something, if you want to fill something in, if it's a filled-in shape, you can you just want to go in and choose the inside swatch, and you can make that a color. And that's going to fill that in. You know, you might have a question though, like what happens if you have shapes that aren't like joined together? You can go into path, like object, path, join, and now you're able to add that as a fill.
Did it make those single line? No?
It basically joins them all together. Yeah, yeah. If they have endpoints that are in the same like position, it's going to join them together. And the idea of a diagram, right, is that at the scale that you're going to present it at. So let's say this thing is 2 inches by 2 inches, or whatever. You have enough weights so that it's legible. And right now, I really care about the outside of it, and I care about the sides, but I don't care so much about that secondary path. So it's a lighter weight. And I did make it gray. I just made it a lighter black, because optically that's kind of the effect. Okay, it's going to stand out less. So it just kind of depends on. Now, there are other things you could do.
When you said lighter black, you mean a smaller line.
I know. I mean. So there's. Yeah. I mean, like you could argue, like, well, I could just make it like gray. But I say if it's black and I make it a finer weight, it's optically similar to making it gray. You know. Yeah. Now, if I had a finer weight and it was gray, it'd be even less. It'd stand out even less. Okay. You want to reserve gray as another thing that you can do, right? If you run out of weights, then you can start going to the grays and weights. But if you use up your weight, your different colors, that's not on the table anymore. Does that make sense? Like you have a lot of options. I wouldn't do more than like 2 or 3 weights for each diagram. Any more than that, it starts to become more of a map than a diagram. And remember, red is just your kind of accent color. That's the only color that you have available to yourself.
So filling's okay?
Well, filling is okay in limited amounts. I just wanted to show you how to fill something. I could argue that these are perfectly fine as, red lines, as red outlines. Because actually, they're not really filled in because they're the site. They make more sense as an outline. We'll look at that. Real quick, I know we're running out of time here. So you can do an alt copy just like you do in Photoshop. I'm going to show you something else. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take this Outlook, and I'm going to go ahead and join that again. And I'm going to make this black. And you can also change the order of these things. You could right-click it, and you could say like send to back. If something gets lost, you might have to open up the layer, and pull this little arrow here, and look for your lines. Okay. I'm going to do something something I think is interesting. So I'm going to take these lines. You can also group things together too. So these won't really, they could join, but I can also group them together. I'm going to make these white. And I'm going to send them to the front. I'm going to make this black, like a black fill. So I could do something. And then what if I did these and I made these white? Maybe not the appropriate kind of diagram, but again, if you think about it, you don't actually have to like cut out the shapes. Like a white shape on a black background is going to look like it's knocked out. You can use the Pathfinder. I think you guys know about Pathfinder tool, right? But like this is essentially the same idea. Pathfinder actually does like a Boolean. It actually cuts out a shape. But for this kind of figure ground kind of study or whatever, just simply making it black and then adding white on top of it. I mean, these read like actually quite a bit differently, But I think for the party of it, like this is the choice, So anyway, once you've got that, and I would do all your kind of line things. And I could go through here now, and I could begin to organize these on a layer within the layer, and start to make these primaries darker, make these secondaries lighter, and then when I've got everything done, and I lay it out, you can go to Save As, and you can go to PDF, and that's your assignment. In a PDF, and I would save it. You don't need to preserve editing capabilities because you're going to output it as that, so that's not that big of a deal. If you go in and let's look at, so I've got my thing is very large, but the nice thing about a PDF that came out of Illustrator is that you can zoom in on it. It's a vector, and so it's going to preserve that. It's going to look good no matter what scale you zoom in on. That you zoom into it. Here's my thing. Right, and if you look at the file size, it's going to be minuscule. 33 kilobytes. Okay, because all it is the vector math. It's not, you're not taking images into it. Your file should be tiny. I mean, not maybe that tiny, but you shouldn't have like a 16 megabyte file because it's just all going to be Autocad. Okay, so I apologize for the confusion today. That actually went a lot worse than I expected. It's a little bit confusing. I might try to kind of I'll have this video, but I might try to clarify some of that. I'll give you some examples of some diagrams so you understand. But the idea is that you start from the AutoCAD files and any images that you guys have as references. Right? Draw your diagrams. Put them into you're going to export them to DXF. Import them into Illustrator. Tune them up in Illustrator using line weight. Using color. Oh, and I didn't actually show this, but did you guys do line type at all? Have you guys seen line type? Inside of Illustrator? I'll just show you. So if I pick something, I can go into the weight thing, and I can turn on the dashed line option. And there's different. That's actually not enough. You got to be really careful how you do this. It has to look good. So that might be okay. To do like a dotted line, you'd have a much smaller. Dash, maybe with rounded edges, and probably more space. So I might make my dash and then make the gaps bigger. So there's a point at which it becomes more of a dot than kind of a dash. So those are the only types I think you really have to worry about for now, are just a dashed line and a dotted line and a solid line. Use these types pretty sparingly as well. Some things want to be dashed, like maybe if you did like an axis, like it's an imaginary kind of thing. Like an axis is probably like a dotted line. Okay. So anyway, between now and Tuesday. Make your diagrams, just work in kind of like an iterative fashion, and again, this isn't like graded. I'm going to give you feedback on this. Okay, you're going to have time to work on this. Talk to Betsy about this, about your ideas. This is for studio, so you're going to be diagramming the site to understand it for her. Again, just keep on developing this, and let's see what you've got Tuesday. Okay, but bring in 40 is the minimum. Bring that in, and we'll talk about those. Okay. Thank you, guys.
I was wrong that those